Our first panel this morning is on the topic of resilience, mental health. Straight after this session, around 11:15, will be a quick mid-morning break, which will be followed by 2 panel sessions split between the rooms. But for now, we'll get into it straight away to introduce the panel on rekindling our resistance, intersections between mental health, wellness, and Zoroastrianism. Please welcome Sherry Kapadia.
Hi guys, good morning. So less of an introduction and more just thank you and an appreciation for these people sitting here today. They work so hard in their jobs. It takes so much to train to become someone who works in mental health, someone who has even lived experiences and then passes on their wisdom to support others or takes time out to support young Zoroastrian children in prayer classes and teach them about mental health. So please try to appreciate this panel, everything they have to say. Just thank you so much for being here today, guys. We appreciate it a lot.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate the turnout. I'm Rozmin, Irani. I'll let my panelists just introduce their first names as well.
Hi, I'm Shreas, Pardiwala.
I'm Rushad, Saklatwalla.
I'm Jehann, Daruwalla.
I'm Azita, Patel.
Hi, Sahm.
Let's go. Okay, so we'd like you to join us in placing a hand over your heart. We're going to take 3 slow, deep breaths together. Ready? Thank you. That was more so for us than it was for the rest of you. Okay, before we begin our presentation, we would like to start with a very famous poem by Marianne Williamson, and it's named Our Deepest Fear.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate.
Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure.
We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, famous?
Actually, who are you not to be?
You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world.
There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you.
We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us.
It is not some of us, it is in everyone.
As we let our own light shine,
We consciously give other people permission to do the same.
As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Today is about liberation from our fears. It's a chance to shine a spotlight on a topic that has been conventionally ignored and overlooked for far too long within our community. It's an opportunity that many of us never had growing up. Today, we take a collective step forward in changing the narrative and rekindling our resilience. After all, we owe it to our younger selves and our future generations. Mental health matters. Mental health impacts every single person in this room. We all have our own unique lived experience, and it's important that we show empathy to one another and understanding and have an open mind and have patience. We all live very stressful, hectic lives, right? At any given moment, you're probably juggling a lot. School, work, relationships, adulting, financing, moving out, breaking up, trying to figure it all out, right? Turn into the news at any given moment and you're going to hear stories around our world about global warming and famine and war, and it can just all be very overwhelming at times. So it's important to learn how to deal with your mental health, and it's essential to not just survive, but to also thrive. We are going to experience times that test us throughout our life, and we have control to decide how we choose to react to those situations and what we want to learn from them. So learning how to positively cope and build resilience is one of the best investments you can make in yourself, and it will transcend to all other areas of your life. We're very privileged to have this platform, and we'd like to thank the committee for this opportunity. Our goal is to begin dismantling, normalizing, and humanizing discussions around mental health. We will be sharing personal experiences and stories, and some of the things we say might be a bit triggering to some of you, so if you do feel triggered, we want you to reflect on those emotions, and if you'd like to talk about it further, you can feel free to reach out to any of us who are sitting up here, okay? So I am very grateful to share the stage with some really brave and really remarkable young Zoros. We are all very, very passionate about mental health, and we really want to advocate for mental health, and we hope by the end of this panel discussion, everybody in this room will feel the same way, okay? So with that, I would like to introduce you to the panelists and my really good friends, okay? We'll start with Azita, okay? So Azita was born and raised in Northern California, where she currently resides. She completed her bachelor's in biomedical engineering and master's in medical product development management, both at San Jose State University. Azita works as a regulatory affairs specialist with Stryker Neurovascular. She is an active board member of the San Francisco Bay Area Zoroastrian community, ZANC. She organizes many events, and she's also teaching Z classes to middle schoolers. And a fun fact about Azita is that she loves to blow off steam at Legree every day after a hard day's work, okay? Then we have Rushad. So Rushad's from Dubai, and he currently resides in London, UK. He earned his bachelor's in psychology from the University of Bath with a neuropsychology placement at Oxford University Hospitals. Rushad currently works as an assistant psychology for the Community Neurorehabilitation Service at Epsom and St. Helens Hospitals with the NHS Trust. Whoop, whoop. Okay. And a fun fact about Rushad is that he loves Bollywood and horror films, but he will still admit that he's scared from Bol Bulaya's Manjulika. Jehann. So Jehann was born in Mumbai and resides in Auckland, New Zealand. He has a degree in occupational therapy and rehabilitation from Auckland University of Technology. He is currently working at Middlemore Hospital as an occupational therapist in orthopedics. And a fun fact about Jehann is that his two favorite ice cream flavors are mint chocolate chip and green tea. Okay.
Can't go wrong, right?
Mint chocolate chip? Okay. Sam was born in Mumbai and is currently residing in Abu Dhabi. Anybody who knows Sam will define him as a person of determination. He is an incredible voice for people with disabilities, and he has spoken throughout Dubai and Abu Dhabi for The Butterfly, which is an advocacy agency that deals with the employment of individuals with disabilities. He's also an ambassador for Purple Tuesday UK, which is a global social movement for individuals with disabilities and their families. Sam currently works as a special education teacher, and a fun fact about him is he's also a breathwork and meditation teacher. Okay. Most of you should know Mr. Shreas Pardiwala by now, okay? So he was born and brought up in Mumbai, where he currently resides. He received a bachelor's in psychology from Jehann College and his master's in clinical psychology from Vivekananda Education Society. Shreas holds diplomas in multiple intelligence testing, theater arts, and method acting. Currently, Shreas is an actor in Bollywood and theater, as well as a psychologist counselor and a drama therapist. And a fun fact about Shreas is he's also an oracle card reader, and he's brought some decks with him, so let's put him to work, okay? Don't let him off too easy. And then myself, Roz. I was born in New York, and I've spent the majority of my life in Vancouver, Canada. I received my bachelor's in kinesiology and master's in occupational therapy from the University of British Columbia, and my clinical background is in neurosciences. I currently work for a provincial bone and marrow transplant program as an occupational therapist, and it's primarily dealing with people who have leukemia. I'm also a part-time college instructor, so I teach a course on physical activity, health, and wellness. And if anybody out here knows me, a fun fact about me is that I absolutely love to dance and sing karaoke, just belt out the lyrics with all my friends. So we'll make it happen, okay? All right, let's get started. Okay, so we're gonna be talking about mental health a lot throughout this panel, obviously. And so we would like to ensure that everybody has an understanding about what the term is that we're gonna keep repeating, and that we are all on the same page, okay? So mental health and mental illness are two different things, and the terminology is quite nuanced. So I want Rushad to kind of take the lead and talk us through what the differences are.
Thanks, Rozmin. I'd just like to reiterate what an honor it is to be here among these amazing panel members and among such a special and youthful audience today. So thank you for having me. Yeah, quite rightly, I think it's so important that we're mindful of the language that we use when we're talking about something like mental health. Firstly, I think it's important that we draw the distinction between terms like mental health and mental illness, because they're often used really interchangeably, but actually mean slightly different things. So while mental health refers to anyone's state of mental and emotional well-being, mental illnesses are diagnosable conditions that affect our thoughts and behaviors. Someone who's mentally well or healthy can realize their potential, they can cope with normal stressors, and contribute to their community in productive ways. Good mental health allows somebody to live a fulfilling and satisfying life, and deal with kind of everyday challenges. On the other hand, a mental illness, like we said, is a diagnosable disorder with a standard set of criteria. They're sometimes called mental health conditions. Some of the most common ones are anxiety, depression, bipolar, OCD, and that kind of thing. And they can be caused by things like genes, your brain chemistry, or even trauma. And anybody can have a mental illness, regardless of their age, religion, race, socioeconomic status. The other thing I'd like to point out is about the power of language. So if you say kangaroo, kangaroo, kangaroo several times, it stops being a furry animal with a pouch and just becomes sounds. So it starts to feel impossible that you've ever said kangaroo before that point in your life. So semantic satiation is the study of repetition, a psychological phenomenon in which where you echo a word, it begins to lose its meaning. And language is weird and slippery, but its capability isn't to be underestimated. I can't remember the first time somebody said it to me, and I'm just as guilty of this, but it happens a lot, and it's always in the same tone. I'm literally having a panic attack, or X and Y happened, and I went mental. I'm having a panic attack. So to take that at face value, it's quite an odd thing to claim a medical episode when actually you're probably just experiencing some mild to moderately kind of stressful everyday incident. You know, it's about thinking about, were you really experiencing overwhelming and disabling anxiety, feeling like you're about to choke to death or have a heart attack, or feeling like you need to collapse under the table? Did you really find yourself paralyzed in a cubicle, wondering whether this was going to be the time that you were going to die, puke, or shit yourself, or maybe all three? Other examples that are undeniably part of our rhetoric are things like, oh, I'm so OCD, I'm so depressed, they're so bipolar. And I guess the thing to think about is how these things have slipped into our discourse these days. I think part of it comes from the fact that everything nowadays, whether it's TikTok or influencers or social media, demands our attention. And when so many things are demanding attention, the cell has to become exaggerated. So we either love or we hate something, and there's kind of nothing in between. But when people say they're having a panic attack when they're just stressed, or I've got OCD when I like cleaning, it points to a total disconnect between language and meaning. Using bipolar or schizo, or essentially these kinds of technical words to describe mundane or everyday experiences means the original technical meaning of that term becomes diluted. And it becomes more strongly associated with these kinds of everyday fleeting experiences. So it therefore normalizes illness. And the potential problem is that now I'm depressed means I'm sad. So how does somebody who's actually depressed describe their illness or how they feel? How can people differentiate between the more complex, severe, and intense experience that they're having? In a way, it strips sufferers of a legitimacy that's already hard for them to obtain. And the suggestion here isn't that we all become militant language police, and we still have to have discussions and talk about these kinds of things. It's just about reflecting on the words you use and how you use them. Thanks.
So discussing mental health within broader society carries a significant amount of stigma, which is the sense of disapproval and discrimination, and it's very apparent, okay? It's palpable. So through this panel, we all kind of want to understand this further and unpack this further, and I want to call upon my fellow occupational therapist, Jehann, okay? I know you and I both have discussed this before, and we really value having a holistic lens, okay? But not everybody sees things this way. So reflecting on your practice in orthopedics and trauma, I want you to share, what you feel, why you feel this stigma exists.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So in my orthopedic experience, I've noticed that mental health has actually been put on the back foot. From an occupational therapy's perspective, mental health is a critical aspect of care that should be taken into account when working in an orthopedic environment. In today's society, there is a big focus on looking after our physical health, going to the gym, exercising, looking good. And don't get me wrong, that is all well and good. But when it comes to mental health, I have a feeling that you just have to do it on your own. Now, in my department, there is such a structure that patients come in with a traumatic event. They have their surgery, they complete their rehab, which takes about 2 to 3 weeks, and then they get discharged and go home. And having gone through surgery myself, I can tell you that there is so much more to it than just that. Than just the physical aspect. And no one really looks at the emotional implications of such a traumatic event. Now, mental health is intangible, and in my practice, when I'm working with patients, I look at the patient as a whole, and not just the surgery or the injury that they've come in with. I actually choose to take the time to find out what kind of goals that they have, what they would like to achieve in their recovery process. I look at their mood, I look at their emotional well-being. I like to promote coping mechanisms and how this orthopedic condition has impacted on their mental health. And usually once we have had a chance to discuss all of their needs, the patient usually has a higher order of volition to engage in therapy, and they usually have better outcomes as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. When Jehann and I were talking about this, one of the first things that came to mind is he works with a lot of people who have orthopedic injuries, so basically broken bones. And it's interesting, right? Because he's like, yeah, you break a bone, you're in pain, you take the scan, you see the broken bone, you can see it. You can see it. So that makes your pain validated. And with mental health, oftentimes, you can't see it. It's invisible, right? Nobody knows what anybody else is going through. So it's important, right? That first part that we were talking about, like having understanding, having an open mind, having empathy. It's a lesson that I think all of us need to practice more. So taking this a step further, okay, so we know mental health carries stigma. We all know that, right? It's in the media, it's around us. We talk about it, our family talks about it. Take it a step further, okay? So talking within our Zoroastrian community now, it is very touchy. It is a very taboo topic, okay? So let's unpack this a little bit further.
So when we were discussing, it was very clear that, I mean, for all of us, we come from a Parsi background. Our ancestors are refugees. There's movement. Personally, my family is from Pakistan, and they were displaced in the Indo-Pak War. There's movement. And then again, my parents are US immigrants. There's movement. A lot of it goes back to either the forced movement or potentially our parents and other generations leaving their homes for better lives for their children. It's usually one of the two. Now, previous generations do find it really difficult to speak up on this topic, specifically because it's a trigger warning for them. We get trigger warnings. We're on TikTok, you'll see trigger warning. You're on Instagram, you'll see trigger warning. Don't open this post. But for us to even bring up a topic, our parents shy away from it. They'd rather suppress those feelings than speak about it and bring up those emotions again. Now, not to mention, our community is very, very small. And personally, and I know a lot of you guys too, when we have specific events in our lives that cause us to have mental illness or any mental health issue, and we talk about it maybe within family, maybe within close friends, but we all have that one aunt, that one uncle, that one sibling, or maybe cousin or friend that will go and tell others. And then you have other people coming up to you now, being like, oh, I heard about so-and-so, and how are you doing with it? How does that person know? And now you've been triggered by hearing that. So it's really about our small community having boundaries and being able to accept that other people may not want others to know about their information or their personal lives, which personally I've experienced, and it's not fun.
Yeah, it's hard to like be yourself. It's hard to share your feelings, right? When you feel like the rumor mill is like running.
Exactly.
Everything spreads like fire, literally, in this community, right? So it's having confidentiality or feeling like you can express yourself wholeheartedly is hard. I know for a lot of us here, we can identify as being first-generation immigrant children, right? Our parents have made so many sacrifices to, move, to get us to where we're at, right? To, have a better life, to have that American dream, Canadian dream, whatever dream it is, a better future for your children, right? So when we begin to start acknowledging maybe some mental health concerns that we have, it might be difficult to actually like verbalize that when you compare to the sacrifices that our parents made, right? You're like, how can I be complaining about having a social life and stress at school and stress in my part-time job when my parents came here with $10 in their pocket and had to figure it all out, right? So yeah, maybe can we speak to that a little bit further?
Absolutely. Our parents are our role models. We look up to them in every single way possible, and mental health is not excluded. So when we're at home and we know that our parents are going through something but suppressing their emotions, we unconsciously then take that sort of just how they're dealing with their own problems, and we internalize it and kind of do the same thing. Now, I'm not saying speak up. Some of us can, and some of us will get listened to. But others, when we speak up, we're told, even with our families, maybe just put your phone away, drink some more water, and just get a better night's sleep and you'll be fine. It's easier said than done. Now, speaking on the first generation American dream, and immigrant dream, I want to compare it to Great Gatsby. For those of you who haven't read the novel or watched the movie, it's about an individual who's striving for the American dream, just wants luxury and success in their life. That's really similar to our parents who, as first-generation Americans, left their homes for luxury and success for their children. Now, not to ruin it for anyone that doesn't know it, but Gatsby ends up alone. He ends up sad and alone, And comparing that to our parents, they also don't have an outlet to express their emotions, and they're left alone. They're putting food on the table, they're trying to raise a family. Some of them, come here with, as Roz said, $10 in their pockets. Personally, I know family that has come, I think, our Dasturji in the Bay Area, when he first came to the US, he was telling me the story, and he goes, yeah, I got on the plane, and we only had, for 3 of us, $100 in our pocket, and we turned out we were going to Palo Alto, which is one of the richest places in California. And they had no idea. So just having that aspect of the immigrant dream, seeing our parents struggle, and having that guilt as to if they couldn't voice how they were feeling, how can we voice to them how we're feeling because they had it way worse?
Yeah. I think a lot of us can kind of resonate with that feeling, right? So, if it's hard to talk to your family members, if it's hard to talk to your parents and your role models and the people you love, it's even harder to maybe talk to a therapist, right? So what are some of the barriers that we're kind of encountering within our community, within our society, with regards to accessing therapy?
So yeah, there are several barriers for people from our community accessing and engaging in therapy. Just talking about the fact that someone's struggling comes with huge stigma in South and West Asian cultures, and often there's a lack of awareness about what services are out there as well. There's a notion that my problem is the family's problem, and so we should keep it within the family, we should solve it as a family, and God forbid anybody else find out. And it's sometimes questioned, why on earth would you need somebody that isn't one of us or part of the family to kind of intervene and talk to all of this about with? And that likely stems from trivializing issues that young people face today, but also equating issues or vulnerability to weakness. And we can't be seen as weak. We have faith in God and we just kind of move on. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. Those kinds of factors contribute to low engagement with mental health services. And even when people do access help, they're often faced with cultural and language barriers. So I work for the NHS, which is the National Health Service in the UK. And it is very much a one-size-fits-all kind of approach, which means that for people from our community or other sort of ethnic communities accessing services, it doesn't quite match their conceptual or cultural needs. And often you'll find that people might fear seeking therapy because they want to avoid being labeled more than they've already kind of stereotyped and labeled themselves. And because of the depth and breadth of South and West Asian cultural communities, you're not going to get mainstream kind of services that can cater to all those different intricacies. Issues around stigma and taboo are really complex and deep-rooted, so there aren't going to be any quick fixes, but we can begin to tackle some of that stigma by engaging with communities and proactively encouraging these kinds of open conversations about mental health. Stigma isn't the only barrier. Mental health services need to look at whether they're truly inclusive and accessible to all. So for example, we have to take into account things like race and religion and culture. So in traditionally Eastern cultures, we believe in collectivism, which is the idea that the community and your family is the priority, compared to sort of traditionally Western cultures where individualism is kind of the priority. So the individual, yourself, I am the most important. And that can make it difficult when somebody from, say, our community might enter therapy or start a therapeutic process, and they're being encouraged to do their self-care and put yourself first and forget about all the other sorts of, you kind of feel like you're kind of forsaking all your other responsibilities. Or even in things like mindfulness practice. Some of you may be familiar with mindfulness. So we offer this as a treatment approach on the NHS. And for a good reason, obviously, in this country, it's delivered as a secular, non-religious kind of approach. But that differs from its very spiritual and religious origins as well. Another thing I've noticed in my clinical practice is that without sort of making generalizations, but my white Caucasian sort of patients, they often they're relatively open to discussing their emotions and quite receptive to sort of input that we can offer. By contrast, I find that my culturally South or West Asian patients generally harbor a little bit of resistance or hesitance. And I think it's important that we establish why that is and work towards breaking down some of those barriers. Sigmund Freud, who some of you may know is a very famous, questionable but famous psychologist, once famously said that out of your vulnerabilities will come your strength. So I think it's important to recognize that having a moment in life where you're struggling and things don't feel right or you're feeling low, that's okay. And it's definitely okay to seek help and want to talk to a professional about it.
Yeah, I know if I'm kind of reflecting and speaking from my own personal experience, when I was younger, and if I was ever sad, I was always told by my family members, don't cry. Don't cry, stop it, be brave, come on, Roz, don't cry. And it wasn't like they were necessarily coming from a bad place, or it wasn't that they had bad intentions, but I think as a few of us have kind of touched upon, like, they didn't know how to deal with our mental and emotional health because they were never taught how to do it themselves. So I, like maybe some of us up here and some of you, would often suppress my emotions and put on a happy face. And that all really changed when I lost a very, very close friend of mine to suicide 2 weeks before he was set to graduate high school. So it was a huge shock to process. It's a huge shock to lose anybody, if you guys have lost people in your lives, let alone a friend to that reason. And despite knowing him very well, I had no idea that he was struggling. He was athletic and popular and charismatic and goofy, and he had it all going for himself, and nobody saw that coming. And at the time, at my high school, they had brought in grief counselors. And my art teacher, whose class we were both in for quite a while, he kept encouraging me to go. He's like, you have to go talk to the counselor. You have to go talk to the counselor. And I was like, no. And I'm very much a people pleaser, so for me to say no was really standing up for myself. And I kept declining. I didn't see the need for it. I didn't see the purpose. I can figure out my own stuff. Like, I can put on a brave face. I've done it my whole life. And then he jokingly threatened that he would fail me in the course. So I was like, oh, come on, I gotta go do this. So I went. And that was the first time in my life where people validated having emotions. And that was the first time that somebody said, you have to cry. It's actually not normal if you are going through a huge loss, a huge grief, a huge turning point, and you don't go through that emotion. You have to feel, and you have to feel in order to heal. So from that point onwards, it was a commitment that I started making, a pledge that I started making to little me, who didn't get the opportunity, and also to carry forward my friend's legacy, that I would talk to everybody around me about mental health and do that as much as I could. This is that sense of dismantling, of normalizing, of humanizing these conversations. We have to have it. And it's easy to say we don't care about being judged, right? It's easy to say we don't care about confidentiality, but we all do to a certain degree. But to me, it's far more important to have conversations that maybe initially might be a little bit uncomfortable, because I don't ever want to go through that kind of loss again in my life. So this idea of not crying resonates with a lot of us, right? And through popular media, through culture, through our societies, we have this idea even further for a lot of the men in this room, right? Growing up, you were always told, men don't cry. So I want to give some of the gentlemen on the stage the opportunity to really deconstruct this idea, to deconstruct this notion.
Yeah, so everyone knows that, that there is a major stigma that follows males and mental health. From a young age, I guess modern society has led us to believe that men or boys shouldn't or don't cry. And that they should look a certain way. They should act a certain way. And pretty much that they should just have it, all together. And I guess when they don't, the response seems to be, you just need to man up. Just do it, man. Well, what's the big deal? Now, an article written by an independent UK mental health provider completed a survey of 1,000 men. And some key findings I'd like to share with you was that 77% of those men had suffered from a common mental health symptom, such as anxiety or stress or depression. 40% of those men had never spoken to anyone. 29% of those 29% of those said that they were just too embarrassed to speak up or say anything. And 20% say that there was a negative stigma on the issue. Now I've worked with males who have been living with schizophrenia and helping them integrate them back into the community, which is a very rewarding thing which I've done in my life so far. And something that I noticed that played a very big part in my therapy process was trust. Now, developing a sense of trust created that pathway to be able to talk about what they wanted to achieve. And, a lot of the time, all that they needed was someone there to just be there and listen to what they had to say and just be there and present in that moment in time. Now, I guess, I'm not asking everyone to, after this panel, to go and find a psychologist and go and speak up to them, all right? But all I'm saying is that, it takes a small time of your day just to go out and check up on a mate. You just need to be like, hey, bro, how's it going? You all good? Yeah? And it can be at the pub, it can be at the gym, it can be out at dinner, anything. And, I want to leave you with this, that real strength isn't just about lifting heavy weights. It's also about lifting the weight off your mind and talking about your feelings. What I mean by this is that real strength is actually multifaceted. It's not just about the physical prowess, but it's also about the emotional resilience that you have, the courage to address and express your feelings. So I want everyone here to remember to hit the emotional gym, as much as the physical one, all right? Thanks.
Just drawing from what Jehann has said. Men don't cry. Bullshit. Of course we do. We all do. We are human. Very often, language and terminologies used in the Zoroastrian community or across the globe, especially I know because I'm a Parsi Zoroastrian, so the language a lot of elders and parents use in the Gujarati language can be quite detrimental. It can truly be quite detrimental to one's mental health. For example, let's take, of course, because we're talking about men don't cry, so let's take men as the subject or anyone in the crowd or audience who identifies themselves as males or men. Very often our parents say, or our elders say, this term, chokri jevo rarna, which translates to, don't cry like a girl. There's a very infamous term, baila panu nakar, which translates to, don't act like a pansy. He's acting like a pansy because he's crying, because he's expressing. The minute you keep non-stop saying chokri panu nakar, don't act like a girl, don't cry like a girl, don't behave like a girl, what are you doing? You are stripping him off and clipping his emotions. Thereafter, in every given point in time, the boy, to save his manhood, will stop expressing. He will control his tears. He will be introduced to the world of suppression. And thereafter, he will become stoic. And that is why you have so many girls out here, so many women out there. My boyfriend doesn't express only. He's so heartless. He's not heartless. It's not like he doesn't want to express. Society, parents, elders, so many cultures have forbidden him from expressing, have said if you express, you're not man enough. So then what happens? Then he shuts up. And when he shuts up, thereafter the elders say a very famous term, gadhera kai bolni, which translates to, donkey say something. But how will the donkey say anything? You have clipped his wings. Crying, emoting, expressing is a human trait. You have taken that away from him. You are not allowing him to be a human. And this terminology, chokri jevo rarna, don't cry like a girl, doesn't only undermine or defeat the boy, it also undermines the girls or females or people who identify as females. Why? Because one, though you have already stopped your son from emoting, from expressing, from crying, from being human, but simultaneously you have bracketed or boxed the girl as the weak one. Don't cry like a girl. That means girls cry. Girls are liable to emoting. Girls can cry, not the boy. She is the weaker gender. She is the weaker sex. Hence, terminologies and language can truly have a negative impact on mental health when they are used flippantly. And it's not only parents, it's not only elders. As someone out here very correctly said, cousins and peers, they pick on that. And then in your entire friend circle, in your entire sibling circle, people label you. People call you such stuff. People box you, bracket you. Crying and emoting is not reserved for one gender. Crying and emoting is the most human thing you can do. So next time you use a terminology, or you catch an adult, or a parent, or anyone in your inner circle saying something flippantly, please go and pause them, because you do not know what effect it will have on the man or the woman. Thank you.
So words carry weight, right? And it's very important to be mindful of the language you use, okay, and draw attention to that. I've started to notice a bit of a positive shift though, like when we're talking about therapy, when we're talking about words, you know, when I was a kid, therapy was not a thing by any means, okay? And so we're noticing now that people, at least in my friend group, or some people that I know, are actively talking about therapy, going to therapy, what I'm learning in therapy. And I think that bridges quite a bit of connection. It opens doors to conversations. And we all strive to be connected, right? We're humans, we're social beings. And it's one of the things that, you know, we value very much. Having a social support network is tremendous to help your mental health, right? Having people in your life that you can count on, that you value, that you trust, not just to ride the highs, but who are also there for you when things get rough. It makes a big, big difference. When we come together in settings like this, right, it's this instant connection, right? It's this identity formation that we can all have because, you know, we all come together, and it's this mutual understanding that we don't have to explain to one another. And it's a very beautiful thing. So, you know, as a Zoroastrian community, we can do a lot to support one another and support our mental health. And so I want to kind of know what are some of the things that, you know, we can work towards doing to positively influence our psychosocial recovery. And I'd like to call upon Sahm to speak about his lived experience, specifically within Abu Dhabi, okay? And I think there's some lessons that the rest of us can learn and take away from this.
Hi everyone. So I had my accident in 2008, right? And I was in Thailand for about 7 months in hospital there. There was no one around. There was like no one there to, except my parents, of course. No one was there to support me. But as soon as I came back to Abu Dhabi, at the airport, there was a horde of people just standing there waiting for me and my family. Now, these people weren't particularly close to me. I didn't have a bond with them. I would meet them maybe once or twice a month. But what did link us? It's a very thin link. It was Zoroastrianism. That's the only reason that they came to the airport, because they knew that a young Parsi boy had suffered something, and so they all needed to be there to support him. And this question was also asked before in this conference, and I'm very happy it was. Like, so what can your community do for you as an special needs person? Like, just be there. The answer is presence. Just be there. Be open and come on and like, for me personally, you have to understand that like it was amazing, like, because I didn't know anything about this. I didn't have it. It was a shock. And then they would continue after the airport. They would continue calling, taking us to parks, going out for lunch here and there. So that's how they supported. And so how can the community help someone in need, someone with a mental issue? Presence. Just be there for that person. Thank you.
Yeah, it's remarkable. When we were all talking to Sahm and we got to learn about Sam's story, a lot of us took a lot of pride in recognizing that despite how small Abu Dhabi's community was in numbers, how much they rallied for him and how much they rallied for his family. They rallied for his parents. And that was huge, right?
Very true.
Very true, yeah. Sahm was telling me, that it was one thing for him to feel included, and it was one thing for him to be invited to these events, right? But it was also another thing that when he was there, he was never felt like he was different. He was never felt to, not be included for whatever reason. He was always included by them. And it was not just him that everybody was, including, it was also his parents. They never ostracized his parents. They never made them feel like, oh, poor thing, like your son. It was our son is going through something, and we are going to rally for our brother and our cousin and our friend. And that's huge, right? That's huge.
Oh, you're right. It is huge. Like, it was the strength in numbers that got me through that phase. Yeah. Like, there's nothing else, honestly. Like, I mean, you have a team of doctors in North America. You have a physiotherapist, an occupational therapist, a speech therapist. But you don't have any of that in Abu Dhabi or Dubai. So, I mean, but I had them, and they were there for me. And there's nothing that can replace that.
Yeah, that's powerful, right? Show up for the people you love. So, with Abu Dhabi's community being cheerleaders and rallying for Sahm, they exhibited a lot of the teachings of Zoroastrianism that we should all kind of embody, right? If you think about it, we all know it's the oldest monotheistic religion. We all know that, right? But despite its, being so old, if you actually learn about the religion, if you actually go through, what the Gathas say, what the Vandidat says, what all of these scriptures of ours says, and you actually process the information and understand it, you will realize that many of the principles, right, are so applicable to the 21st century. And many of them are so applicable to mental health and also your overall well-being. So I know for myself, practicing my religion, saying my prayers, and just meditating with my religion, it's a very cathartic experience. It's a very helpful experience for my mental health, okay? It's a very introspective thing that I find intrinsically motivating and I incorporate on a daily basis because it grounds me. And I need that. When I don't do it, I notice that I'm, something's not right. So, what does our religion have to say about mental health, about all of this?
Thank you. So Zoroastrianism indeed emphasizes a lot about mental health. Of course, it all depends upon the way you would like to interpret it. Many of us out here are very familiar to the terminology vohu man. Vohu man, which translates to the good mind, or the sound mind, or the mind with good purpose. Vohu man is very, very important in the journey of the Urvan. Urvan is the soul. So the soul has many journeys. And in the journey of the soul, Vohu man, or the sound mind, is of prime importance. There is also Asha. Asha is righteousness or truth. And righteousness is so important in the journey of Urvan, and hence you find so many Zoroastrians across the globe known for their righteousness. The whole prayer, Hashem Vahu, it really talks about righteousness. So, the individual, the Zoroastrian, is so righteous in nature, so principled in nature. But I'd like to give you a small example out here. We see several Zoroastrians now in the past who used to be very charitable. Pots and pots of money gone in charity, a lot of philanthropy. But so often Zoroastrians, you see, or at least I have seen, bickering for 1 or 2 rupees with the taxi fellow, bickering for 1 or 2 rupees with the vegetable vendor. So many of them. And thereafter, that bickering does tend to get into a fight. That bickering does tend to become a very moral standpoint. Why? Because the Zoroastrian believes that no. Life must be lived righteously and in a principled way. All transactions conducted on a day-to-day basis should be righteous in principle, and with that righteousness, the individual does fight for those 1-2 rupees. No, you need to do right with the vegetable vendor, with the taxi fellow. And when that righteousness gets to the head, and the individual starts fighting and becoming violent and gives abuses, we all know the MCBC popular abuses. Now where's the righteousness? Has it led you to Gavashni Kunashni, which is good words and thereafter good deeds? Righteousness without the backing of the Vohu Man or the sound mind will not take you anywhere. Hence, Vohu Man is of prime importance, a sound, healthy mind. Because a sound, healthy mind gives birth to Manashni, which is good thoughts. These good thoughts govern your good words and your good deeds. We also have another terminology, Almighty. Very important in the journey of Urvan. Almighty denotes worship. I would like to think of Almighty as faith, because there is no worship without faith. There's no true, honest worship without faith. Now, if I just go and I worship without Vohuman or a sound mind, my worship becomes blind faith. Because I'm not thinking, I'm just going with what is told to me. And when you do that, it turns into blind faith. And that blind faith can truly have a detrimental effect. So many wars, religious wars. Till today, so many religious, steamy, heated debates. All blind faith. So often you hear individuals claiming things, saying things, and thinkers say, but where's the backing? What do you have to support this statement? But it is made out of blind faith. It is not made out of Vohuman. So Almighty without Vohuman or the backing of the sound and healthy mind will lead you to destroy your life. Manashni, Gavashni, Kunashni. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Humatta, Hukta, Huvarashta. They are the three basic tenets of our religion, of our community. Let me tell you the opposite. Dushmatta, Dujukta, Dujuvarashta. Now let me break this down for you. So Avesta and Pazand have a sister language, the ancient and so-called mother of all languages, Sanskrit. You all know Sanskrit? So in Sanskrit, Dushmatta, Matta is the mind. Dush is bad. So Dushmatta is the bad mind, or the bad mind which leads to negative thinking. And when you think negative of him or her or the situation, you speak negatively of him, her or the situation, and thereafter your behavior towards him, her or the situation will be negative. Dushmatta gives rise to Dujukta, Dujuvarashta. And they actually fuel and stimulate the Angrai menu in the individual. Now what is Angrai menu? Angrai menu is the evil being or the being of destruction, as opposed to Manashni, Gavashni, Kunashni, which fuels or feeds the Spenta menu, the holy individual, the holy being, the Holy Spirit. Very often we say, oh, no. My deeds are because my mind is just possessed by the devil. It's all the devil activity. Are man. No. What about the individual within you, the being within you? Why should Hare Man or Angrai menu be an external phenomena when the individual is you? Dushmatta, Dujukta, Dujuvarashta, what you have harbored, what you have indulged in, is fueling the demonic Angrai menu within you. It is your mind. So let's not blame the outside. It is within you. Angrai Menu, Dushmatta are the flag bearers of darkness. What darkness? The darkness which actually pulls the individual. You say depression, anxiety, these are all forms of darkness. When one is depressed, one is in a very, very, very dark space. One cannot see the light. This is what Dushmatta does. This is what the inside Angrai Menu does. And that is why our holy fire, our holy Atash, is not some mere fire. It is that divine light which we pray unto to eliminate the darkness in the mind. Once the darkness is eliminated and thereafter illuminated by the holy Atash, by the fire, does one attain the true state of Ushta. Now what is Ushta? Ushta is ultimate happiness, ultimate illumination. See, the whole point of Zoroastrianism is to take mankind away from unconsciousness, to the transition between unconsciousness to consciousness. When you are conscious, when the spark of the divine is within you, and your mind is illuminated, and you have reached supreme amount of happiness, can one be called the happy, perfect being. Then the Spainta menu, or the good being in you, is awakened. But all this can only be awakened when we invoke the healthy, sound mind, because it all starts with the Vohu Man. It's the mind, good thoughts, which thereafter lead to the good words and the good deeds. And if you want to lead or reach Ushta, you need to see to it that you invoke the Vohu Man. You invoke the healthy and sound mind. And you see to it that you feed that healthy and sound mind. What do we do in our religion? We feed the fire. We offer the fire with sukhar, sandalwood. What are we doing? You're feeding the fire in your mind with Manashni, Gavashni, Kunashni. Because that will actually make you the person that you are. And I really pray we all reach one day that state of extreme happiness, elation, or illumination, Ushta. And with that, I wish all of you, Ushtate, may happiness be unto thee.
Now, speaking on everything that Shreas just said, I'd like to pick up a verse from the Ushtavarti Gatha, Yasna 43:15. O Aura Mazda, I found you progressive and productive when good thought came to me, and taught that the best path is to progress is meditating in serenity. Learned, never flattered the deceitful, since they consider the righteous as enemies. In simple terms, it really boils down to trying to stay on the right path, the path of Asha, the path of righteousness, to ensure that you try your best not to let the dark energy get to you the way Shreas just mentioned earlier. And I do want to mention there are a lot of verses in the Gathas that really relate to mental health and just everyday life as a whole.
I think I know we're getting short on time. One other thing I'd like to mention is kind of based off what we've been talking about. I think when people ask me what Zoroastrianism is or what my religion is, my go-to kind of explanation is good thoughts, good words, good deeds. I think that's really powerful. I think it resonates with most people that our religion is actually something quite simple, and it's just about being good, positive, and on this path of righteousness. In clinical psychology, so we work as therapists, we have a range of different psychological therapies, but the main gold standard treatment for most mental health conditions in the UK and around the world is something known as CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. Basically, this just focuses on the way we think about things and how that interacts with how we behave. So really simplistically, for example, you go through a breakup, you start to think it was all your fault, you might feel really down, upset, and guilty, and then you might resolve to not form any future relationships because you're going to socially isolate yourself because you think you'll always fail and ruin those relationships. And you can see how the thinking process here is really catastrophic and rigid and overwhelmingly negative. So we'd approach therapy by trying to basically challenge or dispute some of those faulty or irrational beliefs. Essentially, the whole therapy is based around how thoughts interact with feelings and in turn behavior, and trying to make that all positive and rational, which resonates exactly with our idea of good thoughts, good words, because you express and describe how you're feeling, and good deeds, positive action. I think that's something we can all be so proud of, the fact that our religion from over 3,000 years ago actually predefined and taught us about the three most important things for our overall well-being, and something that's used across several therapy methods today. Yeah, thank you.
So I think it's really important that we acknowledge that we represent really resilient roots, right? Our religion is so resilient. We, all have heard stories. We all know the history of prosecution. So the fact that 500 plus youth and a lot more were wanting to be an R in London in the summer of 2023 is just one very simple, very little testament to how resilient we are as a group of people, okay? Resilience plays a crucial role in your life. It's this ability to bounce back, okay? It's the ability that no matter life's roller coasters, no matter the ups and downs, no matter the heartbreaks, no matter whatever you're going through, right? It's your ability to stay in the sense of equilibrium. And it's your ability to deal and cope in a positive way, okay? So we want all of you to not only build Ushta, but we want you to build resilience, okay? So what are some ways that people can strengthen their resilience? Because we're all going to go through life's ups and downs. We're all going to be tested. We're all going to have, challenges that we encounter. So we have to learn how to deal with them in an effective way. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I'll take this one. So resilience. Resilience is a subjective topic. Now, it's different for everyone. A basic definition of resilience from the American Psychological Association states that resilience is a process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging situations and life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility. Now, we as Zaratostris have shown our own kind of resilience, as Rozmin and what everyone else here was saying. We have been through religious wars. We have been through great conquerors, essentially saying it's our way or the highway. Our parents leaving home to live in a new country for our benefit, which I think is a similar kind of situation to our great ancestors when we left Iran and entered India. We needed to adapt to a new society and a new culture in order to live and successfully practice our Zaratostri religion. Now, resilience in mental health refers to the ability to adapt, bounce back, and cope effectively with life's challenges, stresses, and adversities. Now, it's not about avoiding struggles, but rather about developing healthy coping mechanisms and support systems to allow individuals to navigate through tough times and emerge stronger. There are many studies of resilience and how to be resilient. In my opinion, in my opinion, I think there are two main pillars of resilience: to be adaptable and to be flexible. Now, an acronym that we came up with was FAR, FAR. So, if you are able to have the mindset of being flexible and able to adapt to a situation, I feel that resilience will come naturally. Now, building resilience involves cultivating a toolkit of skills and practices that can empower you to adapt and thrive in the face of adversity. From my research, I'll provide you with, which I think, top 5 skills and practices to help maintain mental well-being and ultimately building a strong foundation for resilience. And just remember that this may vary from person to person as well. So the top one, I think, is positive mindset. All right, cultivating a positive outlook to an environment or situation. So kind of being a half glass full type of person. The next one is, I think, is emotional regulation. So developing the ability to manage and understand emotions is crucial for resilience. And even developing some techniques like deep breathing or mindfulness or meditation. Another big one is social supports. So building and maintaining a strong support network around you of friends, family, or even the community. Another one is cognitive flexibility. Being adaptable and flexible and being open to change and embracing new situations. And the last one, I think, is self-compassion. You know, being kind to yourself in moments of difficulty. And you know, yeah, that's
Giving
what I
yourself
say.
grace, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, be kind to yourself.
Yeah, just be kind to yourself, pretty much. That's basically where I was going with that. And I think by incorporating these skills into your lives, you know, you can construct a robust toolkit for resilience, empowering yourself to navigate through life's challenges and experiences. And I just want you to remember that, you know, building resilience is a journey. There's so much room for growth and change and improvement. So don't be too hard on yourself. Yeah.
And just really quickly, adding on to that, you know, it's a fact that life happens and things happen, and we can't always undo or change that. When we think about mental health, there's this idea that having a sense of free will and feeling like we have agency in our life to make decisions and make choices and exert volition is beneficial, and it's good for our mental health. Life would be really unfair and really disheartening if everything was predetermined by our biology or our environment or our upbringing. So I think one thing that can be challenging to grapple with is how we reconcile that idea alongside belief in fate and destiny and the sorts of things that come with the rhetoric of, oh, just leave it to God. I think the takeaway from our religion and the Gathas is that we're blessed as humans with free choice, but we're guided to seek the path of righteousness and make good choices. And how we interpret good choices is obviously subjective, but I think that's a very comforting position to take. An example I always think back to is when I was at school doing exams and getting those pre-exam nerves and having my parents and family just tell me that you've done your best, to God you can leave the rest. And that sticks with me. So it's the idea that you do your best to prepare, you put in the effort, you make good moral choices, and the rest you can leave to God and trust God to kind of handle.
I think we've all heard that one, right? As we've all said prayers before exams. So we're going to wrap up right now. This topic is complicated, right? It's broad, it's dynamic, it's different for every individual. Today's conversation on mental health is just scratching the surface, okay? And we really hope that it's inviting and opening the door for a lot more conversations to come, a lot more discussions to come. And, you know, you all can take action as individuals within your own, you know, friend circle and family group to start those conversations. And we all need to continue and carry forward these conversations as a community. Building resilience does not happen overnight. friends. It is a lifelong process. It's a big journey that we all have to, take, that is individual and unique to each person. So it's really onto you to do that, okay? And we hope we've given you a few strategies to start thinking about that, incorporating that, practicing that. But we want out of today to start lighting a fire for everybody, okay? We want to start the matches. We want to start rekindling this sense of being able to do it all over again. So, yeah. I think we're going to just end with a very quick meditation led by our meditation expert on the panel here. So if you would all please join us. Sam is just going to run through a quick grounding meditation for all of us to practice here. And it's often used in therapy. Sensory-based stuff is often used in therapy as, a centering and grounding tool. So we'll let Sam take the lead on this one.
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head, Rozmin. Like, why is mental health an issue? It's very simple. Like, we can't see mental health. We can't taste it. We can't feel it. So we can do none of those things, but it still exists, correct? And that's the point. So linking mental health to meditation as well. Like, you can't feel meditation. You can't understand meditation. You just do it, and then you see the benefits after. And moving on, like, from my experience, people have really taken meditation to a different level, made it really difficult. Like, it's not at all. You can't empty your mind. Like, everyone says empty your mind. That is not possible. What you can do is allow the thoughts to flow into your mind, look at them, and move on. Just observe the thoughts. Now, would everyone like to sit straight in their chair? Face the table. With your eyes closed, only breathing through your nose. Just follow the sound of my voice. Welcome. There is a flame, the flame of Udwada, flowing down over your head. When it goes over your head, it penetrates your head and reaches your forehead. It reaches your forehead and goes down to the center of your neck. The flame goes from the forehead to the neck. It goes even deeper down to the heart. The forehead, the neck, the heart. It goes even deeper down to the solar plexus. The forehead, the neck, the heart, the solar plexus. It goes even deeper down under your belly button. Just under your belly button. Your forehead, your neck, your heart, your belly button. Goes even deeper down to the root, to your root. It goes from your forehead to your neck, to your heart, to your solar plexus, to your belly, and to your root. Feel the flame. Does the flame feel hot? It does feel hot. your temperature is rising. Now take a deep breath in and let go. Just let go of everything that was just said. Breathe in 1, breathe out 1. Breathe in 2, breathe out 2. Breathe in 3, breathe out 3. Now we're going to be aware of body parts. So when I name a part in your body, just be aware of it. And allow yourself to think of it. Starting with your right hand. Imagine your right hand. Your arm. Imagine your right arm. Your chest, your entire chest. Your stomach and thorax. Your entire stomach and thorax. Your groin, your entire groin. Your thighs, both your thighs. Your knees, both of the knees. The calves, both of your calf muscles. Your ankle, both of your ankle. Now we're going to reverse and we're going to go up and we're going to go a bit faster. Ankles, calves, knees, thighs, groin, chest, neck, and forehead, and forehead, and forehead. Now be aware of your entire body. Just be aware of your entire body. Take a deep breath in and let go of everything just said. Breathe in 1 and breathe out 1. Breathe in 2 and breathe out 2. Breathe in 3 and breathe out 3. What I want everyone in here to know is that you are safe. You are very safe, and each individual here is beautiful. Taking your time, shake your fingers and toes. Don't open your eyes as yet. Roll your shoulders. Put your hands together. And then put your hands over your face. And open. Thank you.
Ladies and gents, please thank Roz and the entire mental health panel.